Today I'm going back to basics. I need a bit of nice warm comfort food because it's getting quite cold here in Australia at the moment. So I thought, what have I got in the cupboard? What have I got in the fridge? What can I do with just a few basic odds and sods? And I've come up with something truly gorgeous. Let's make this beautiful cheesy beef and spinach pasta bake on the One Pot Chef. First things first, to make our pasta bake, we're obviously going to have to cook up some pasta. So I've got a big pot of boiling water on the stove, and we're going to boil up some dried pasta. I'm using this beautiful spiral pasta today, or fusilli pasta. I've got 500 grams, and what we're going to do is just follow the pack of directions, just chuck it into the boiling water and allow it to cook. While the pasta is cooking, we're going to work on the pasta bake sauce. In a large saucepan over medium heat, I've got a little bit of oil in the pan, and I'm going to add in one small brown or yellow onion, which I've just roughly chopped up, and a couple of teaspoons of minced garlic. And we're just going to cook those stirring for a couple of minutes until the onions soften and start to go a little bit translucent. Once the onions are softened, we're going to add in our meat. Now, you can use pretty much any meat you like with this recipe. You can use beef, you can use chicken, you can use pork, you can use turkey, whatever you happen to have on hand. I'm using some lean beef mince or ground beef today. I'm putting in 500 grams or round about a pound or so. And just using your wooden spoon, we're just going to break up the mince, and we're going to give it a stir occasionally just to make sure it cooks nice and evenly. This should take about 6 minutes or so. Now, I'm using a lean mince today because I don't want this to have a ton of grease coming out of it, because I want to make this sauce basically nice and flavourful but not greasy and oily. But if you're using just a regular hamburger mince or something like that, that's fine. Just I recommend tipping out a little bit of the oil or the grease once the beef is browned. Now that our mince is browned, we're going to add in a few flavours. First, I've got some dried Italian herbs. I'm not going to measure this. I'm going to put in about 1 to 2 teaspoons roughly. Now, these dried Italian herb mixes are great. This one, the Italian herb mix, has things like rosemary, parsley, thyme, oregano or oregano, depending on where you come from. And you can get this from the herb aisle of most supermarkets. I'm also going to add in some Worcestershire sauce. Again, I'm not measuring, I'm just going to give it a bit of a splash, probably about a tablespoon or 2. Now, Worcestershire sauce just adds that little bit of extra savouriness to it. It helps to give this a real sort of nice sort of, I don't know how to describe it really, but it just makes it just taste that much richer and nicer. I'm not really sure if that's a scientific way of describing it, but I always add Worcestershire sauce to meat sauces because it just really just makes it that much better. I'm also going to add in 3 400 gram cans of diced tomatoes. These are great to keep in the cupboard for a rainy day. You never know when they're going to come in handy. And just stir the tomatoes through. And that's basically it. We're just going to season this with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then we're going to allow this to simmer for about 10 minutes. It's been 10 minutes and our sauce has simmered down and is reduced slightly. And last thing to do is to add in our baby spinach. Now, I've got a small bag of baby spinach leaves, about 100 grams or so, and I'm just going to tip them straight in. I love adding baby spinach to sauces like this because what it does is it simply wilts down and disappears into the sauce. So you get a bit of extra veggies and you don't really realise it's happening, which is great if you've got fussy eaters in your household like I do. So we just stir that gently until the spinach is completely reduced down. It only takes a couple of minutes. As you can see, the spinach has wilted down and sort of melted into the sauce. That looks good. Now, we're just about ready to start assembling our pasta bake. Now, you can see that this sauce is still quite liquid, quite saucy. There's a reason for this, because this is going into the oven. And when it goes in the oven, obviously the heat is going to draw out the liquid in the sauce and it's going to evaporate it and the sauce will thicken. But if you just use a regular spaghetti sauce, which is much thicker than this, less liquidy, what it does is it dries out the sauce and it doesn't allow the pasta in the pasta bake to sort of cohere together and become sort of all mixed together and stuck together in one coherent block of yumminess. That's not English. You know what I'm talking about though. So all we need to do now is start assembling. Our pasta is cooked and I've just drained it and put it back into the pot it was boiled in, and all we're going to do is pour over our sauce nice and gentle. And just stir that together until all the pasta is nicely coated. I've got a large oven-proof baking dish here which I've just lightly sprayed with some cooking oil, and all we're going to do is we're going to ladle over half of the pasta mixture, and we're just going to sprinkle over about half a cup of grated cheese. I'm using some grated mozzarella today, but you could use whatever grated cheese you like. You can use cheddar, you can use mozzarella, you can use a lovely pizza mix, whatever you fancy. And then we're just going to ladle over the rest of the pasta mixture. And top with another layer of grated cheese. And our pasta bake is ready to go into the oven. Preheated oven, 180 degrees Celsius, about 360 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 20 minutes, or until the cheese on top is nice and golden. While our pasta bake is in the oven, I thought I'd take this opportunity to remind you to check out my social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Links in the video description underneath this video on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, click the subscribe button and that little notification bell next to it. That way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. And here is our completed cheesy beef and spinach pasta bake. It looks absolutely amazing. That cheese is beautiful and melted and it's gone golden in places. And the pasta mixture has condensed down, it's all come together. The cheese on the inner layer has helped to fuse everything together. Now all we need to do, once it's out of the oven, is just allow it to stand on the counter for about 10 minutes. That'll allow any excess liquid still there to come off as steam and allows everything to bond together nicely, and then we'll be ready to serve. Grab a fork and get stuck in. How gorgeous does this look? Now, this is incredibly heavy, so I'm putting this down right now. All right, I'm gonna dive in and have a quick taste. Oh, it's still very hot. Oh, that's gorgeous. The thing I love about this recipe is the simplicity. It's very basic ingredients, it's basic classic flavours. There's nothing too overwhelming here. You've got a basic tomato sauce, you've got garlic, you've got onion, you've got the spinach, you've got lovely cheese on top there, and you've got wonderful tender pasta. Absolutely gorgeous combination. It's simple, it's tasty, anyone can do this. I guarantee you, give this a try and I reckon you'll be making this all the time. Well, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Check out my other videos at OnePotChefShow.com. And until next time, see you later. This is just your basic classic pasta bake with very sort of simple classic flavours, and it's a great jumping off point for altering it to make it all sorts of different versions of this. You can add extra vegetables, you can change the meat, you can use a mixture of different cheeses, you can use different pastas, you can change the sauce up to change different flavours involved with it, different herbs, different spices, whatever you like. And great thing about this particular one is that once you've made it, any leftovers can be put in the fridge for the next day, or you can freeze them for another time. So there's no waste, it's really easy to throw together, and I guarantee everyone's going to love it.